Hi, everyone. Well, it's another miraculous moment time for us to spend together. And I'm just loving how this is happening. I'm even loving how people are showing up for me to interview. And this is one of those moments. My guest today is Missy Hatfield. And Missy and I met because I am working with Conscious Media Relations as we're promoting my book, Create Your Miraculous Life. It's never too late. And Missy is helping me with my scheduling and reaching out to podcasters, radio show hosts, TV hosts. And we just happened to have one of our wonderful conversations just last week. Missy called me because there was a little something that looked like a minor glitch that she needed me to be aware of. And this was miraculous in itself because we spoke and I basically just asked her, well, what I shared with her, what I've been doing and how fun it is and inspiring. And I said, what's your miraculous moment? And so, Missy, I want to welcome you today as you share yours. What you might want to know about this wonderful person. It was like when we first talked, I went, "Oh, my new best friend," and Missy is located in Florida. Remind me, where in Florida are you?
I'm in Vero Beach, Florida,
Right.
north of Miami, south of the Cape.
And so Missy herself has had a very unique career. She is now a retired Air Force. What would you say, Air Force?
I was Air Force, and I was also a meteorologist while I was in the Air Force.
I know you helped look at weather, typhoons. You were watching
Yes.
typhoons, and then at some point she shifted after she retired, and she now works with Conscious Media Relations in terms of working with affiliates, helping people like me with my scheduling and connecting to podcasters and radio show hosts. But she's also the co-owner and designer for Web Shop One, assisting people building their websites. And I'm sure there's even more. So first of all, Missy, tell everyone what does a miracle mean to you? You know, I use this phrase rather frequently, but it means so much to different people. What does it mean to you?
I think a miracle or miraculous event is something that's unexpected, undeserved, and yet still given to us in our daily life, or whether you believe in a higher being or the universe. But I think it's unexpected and undeserved, and yet is still given freely.
Yeah, well, the only thing that I'm questioning what you're saying is, I don't know about the undeserved part. I
I
think,
guess, okay, how about unearned?
okay,
Would that be a better word?
maybe
Unearned.
we're not gonna wordsmith that one.
Okay.
I believe everybody's deserving of miracles. You know,
Sure.
they're readily available. So why don't you share your initial miraculous moment that you shared with me?
Sure. So when we were talking and you just came right out and asked me, what is your miracle? The very first thing that popped into my mind was something that happened to me about 6 months after my husband had passed away. I was only 32 years old when he died suddenly. And it was around Christmas time, and I had gone to visit some friends. And, as with anybody who's in grief and in unexpected grief, I was in real turmoil inside. Just this, I didn't know what to do with it. I wasn't equipped for that kind of grief. I'd never had anything like this happen to me. And so I remember that I was just thinking or praying, I wish I could have 10 minutes of peace. That's all I want, just 10 minutes of not being in pain and of feeling good and joyful and loved again. And I happened to be at a friend's house that I was visiting over Christmas. So I felt like taking a nap. And I went upstairs to the room that I was staying in, and I laid down to take a nap. And I happened to look at the clock, and it was 2 o'clock. And as I was laying there, and again, still wishing or praying, 10 minutes of peace, and I fell asleep. And I had, Wendy, the most amazing, I can't even call it a dream. I have to call it an experience, because it felt like all of my senses were there. I was in a place, we'll call it a dream just for a better word. I was in a place, I felt like I was outside of a fenced in area, and everything about it was perfect. The grass was a perfect green. It was the right length. The breeze on my skin was perfect. The temperature was perfect. I felt warm. I felt safe. I didn't feel any pain. And I've never been able to find the words to express everything that I experienced at that moment, except to say it was perfect. And it was peaceful. And I was there, and I enjoyed it, and my senses felt, smelled, touched every single bit of it. And then I woke up, and it was 2:10. It had been 10 minutes of the most perfect peace, exactly what I had asked for.
Mm. First of all, that's so extraordinary, but it also shows when we open up and we ask,
Yeah.
please, it may not be given to us in that moment,
Mhm.
but in your situation, it did come. So
Yeah.
what did that moment teach you?
Along the same lines, asking for something that I needed and being willing to accept it.
Mm.
Being willing to experience whatever was given to me. Again, this is where I go back to that unexpected, unearned, where it was what I needed, it was what I asked for, and it's what was given to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the key to what you just said was to be open to accept it. Every
Mhm.
person I've ever worked with has been restricted in some way in their ability to receive. We are
Yeah.
more naturally wired to give, at
Mhm.
least many of us, but it's much more challenging for us for whatever reason to receive. And that's one thing I do, is I help to open up that receiver. A few other things too. Now then, you also shared a second part of this story that I'd like for you to share now.
And it actually happened before this. I was still living in New Mexico shortly after my husband had died. And this goes to that thing of asking for and being willing to accept. I stopped by, my husband had died just a few months earlier, and I stopped by his old shop. The radio guys were always, he worked in the radio maintenance, and they were always so good to me. And I just stopped by to, see some of his friends. And this one gentleman, Lee Crabtree, he asked me, how's it going? And we got onto the conversation that my husband and I were remodeling the house. And it was difficult. And I had this big project. I needed to get all the stucco off of the house. And Lee looked at me and he said, well, how about Saturday at 7:30? Okay. I figured maybe we'd get one wall done. So Saturday morning, I was, dry my eyes, dry my hair, try to get through the day. And there was the doorbell rang at about 7:18. And I figured Lee was early. And I went to the door and I opened it up, and Lee had stepped off the porch and was standing in my front yard. There was a total of 17 men standing in my front yard, and they all had tool belts on, and they were ready to get to work. And so we immediately just started working, just knocking stucco off the wall. That was the first thing we had to do, was get all the stucco off the house. And then we started putting siding up on the house. And at 11:30, an older couple that was a friend of mine showed up with bags of groceries, fired up the grill, and proceeded to feed these guys that were working on the house with me. And then around 2 o'clock, another caravan pulls up with all the wives and girlfriends and children of these guys that had been helping me. And they had shovels and rakes, and they proceeded to clean up everything that we had knocked off the walls. So in that short period of time, they got everything knocked off. We got all of the siding up, and it was a direct result. It was a miraculous moment of these guys. I got so much out of it because I needed the help. I asked for it, and way more than I ever asked for or expected showed up. And it was also a way for these guys and wives and children and friends to be able to give when, so often when we lose somebody, we don't know what to do. And so my asking gave them the opportunity to do something for Howie's wife. And I'll tell you that I hugged every single one of them when they left that day at 5:30. Everything was done. And it was truly a miracle. And you're going to ask me what my lesson was out of that miracle. Again, we go back to the asking and receiving. And I think there started to be maybe a little bit of a healing, maybe a little bit of the I'm not alone, that while my grief is one thing, their grief is another, but yet we're common in that, and that we can love and help each other with in grief or in bad times or good times. We can always be there for each other.
You know, what I also really appreciate about what you're sharing is the importance of us coming together. I think too many times people are hesitant to ask for help, to share. I'm really struggling right now in whatever way. I'm lonely. I mean, I'm worried about my finances, whatever it
Mhm.
might be. And I think that right there is what we have to get over.
Yeah.
I in the short time that we've known each other, I mean, you're a very giving person. I can just tell you, and I am too. I love to contribute. And Missy, how does it feel when you give to somebody that you know needs your help?
It's extremely fulfilling. It doesn't feel empty. I'll use the example of Christmas presents. Well, I want to give someone a Christmas present. I don't have to get them. You end up getting them a knickknack to put on their shelf, but that's not really what they need or want. Maybe what they really need or want is when you're able to help and contribute. And so when someone asks for that and you know what their need is, and you're able to step in. I mean, it's the selfish part of it, the way we feel when we help other people, that is fulfilling. But I think that's the way we're built. If we're really get in touch with our true self, we're not meant to be alone. We're meant to be in groups, and we're meant to be of service to one another. And when we can do that is when we truly, truly, I read something about an angel. We're all angels with one wing, and it's only when we hold each other that we can fly.
Mm,
So I think that's how we're designed, to hold each other and fly.
yeah, I agree. And I want to just emphasize how wonderful it feels when we do provide for another person. So if you happen to be somebody that's struggling or confused or whatever your circumstances may be, please don't deprive us of having that feeling. Why would you want to deprive us of that feeling that we get when we can contribute to you? And I think maybe if some people can look at it maybe from that perspective, asking, for help is not a traditional help, is not to be a four-letter word. And we are needing more than ever to pull together in our life right now. So, in conclusion, my dear,
Yes.
if you were to offer words of encouragement for anybody that is wanting or needing a miraculous moment, what might you want to say?
If you, I'm going from the perspective that something's hurting. If you're needing a miracle, then something's hurting. And so being open to the miracle makes you open to begin healing as well. And the miracles, I mean, I only told you two. There were, since we've had our conversation, I thought about it, and there's a dozen more. And every single one of them was a salve on my broken heart. And that's what a miracle does for you. When you're open to receiving it, it comes in and it fills whatever your need or your wound is.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really time. it's time. I mean, I never thought I would get into the quote miracle business and be a voice for miracles, but it's been my own journey to actually believe it's possible and to inspire others to know, not just to know, but to experience so many of the beautiful miracles that are present each and every day of our lives. So thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for sharing your wonderful, miraculous moments. We may have to do this again. And for all of you, really be asking for those miracles. They're there, they're wanting to support you. And if you have a miraculous moment that you want to share, reach out to me. I'd love to hear it. Okay, everyone, take care.